topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Now here's your host, Emotional Wisdom Training Specialist Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Language of Healing. We are broadcasting live on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV network. And you can also find us on Facebook and YouTube. If you're live today, you can leave comments and engage with us in our very interesting conversation we're about to have for this episode. Our guest is James Kawainui, and he does so many things. But, mainly we're talking about energy or protocols for energy hygiene. And what does that mean? Energy hygiene, we cleanse our bodies, we work out, we eat well, we try to live a nice, healthy life. But, how much attention are we putting on cleansing our mind, our spirit, our heart? Clearing some of that space that surrounds us, because we are so much more than just physical material beings, right? We have this resonant field around us that can be used to support us, and, leveraging some of those niggly bits, we'll say, the stuff that really yeah, it's like you do everything well and you're like, whoa, what's still going on? Why do I still feel a little bit out of alignment? Or, that situation was a bit cringy, So that's what we're talking about today, and something that we're not very well taught. Even in our school systems and socially not very well educated, at least in the West, on how to take care of our bodies, how to stand, how to walk, how to sit properly, but also how to take care of some of those energetic things happening around us as well, because we're really, I don't know the exact numbers, but we're only taking in a certain number or a certain percentage of information at one time, right? We're only able to process little bits, for like maybe 1/10 or something. I don't know, I'm just tossing that out there, but it's a small amount. And then in our dream time, or when we're like resting and sleeping, that's when we get a chance to process all of the information, the rest of the information from the day. So we're taking it in anyway. And now we're going to learn some tools on how to utilize it, because we might be aware of it, but not know what to do with it. And this is very valuable information. It will support you in your health, your relationships, your business, and in general, just getting more of what you want, getting closer to the core of what it is that you want, and then moving forward from there, knowing how to ask for it and showing up, keeping your word, and keeping a natural attitude of gratitude. Those are the 5 steps to success from emotional wisdom training. That comes from the Emotional Wisdom Training Institute. If you'd like to know more about that, I'll just plug it here. You can check out the Emotional Wisdom Training podcast that Kate Michaels hosts, and she's a wealth of information and always great topics to learn from on how to respond more wisely to your emotions versus react to them. And today's conversation really supports that, because with more awareness, you can have that acceptance and the awakening into moving to a better, more resourceful choice, option, life for yourself. So when you think about your energy, so just tune in for a little bit, sink into your body. Let your sit bones rest wherever you might be seated. Spine is nice and straight. Good antenna. Right? We want to be receptive in our receptive bodies. Clear channel. And so I just want you to check in with your energy. Well, maybe, check in with your physical body. How is your physical body feeling today? And how about your energetic body? Where is it at? How is it? What's the quality? What do you notice in your energy field? And we'll add in there your mental emotional field. How is that today? What do you notice there? Good. I'm feeling quite well. To be honest, I always get a little nervous to come on, and be here in front of the camera and knowing that it's being recorded and live. And the replay is there forever. It's awesome. It's the blessing and the curse, I guess, right? But not really, because it's just like when we're expanding, there is a bit of that unknown, like, oh, what's going to happen? That anticipation and that excitement can be utilized in a motivating way. I think the opposite of that would be anxiety versus excited and anticipation. So we're going to, just play around with a little bit of the differences between the energies and what you're saying, what you're thinking, and bring it all together. Okay, so no more delay here. I'm going to introduce our guest, James Kawainui. He's a native Hawaiian healer. He's a mentor and a teacher with strong family roots going back over 20 generations in Hawaii. His family are the shaman of his culture, and he brings that ancient wisdom into the work he does on a daily basis. And he works with clients all around the world. His awakening came over 20 years ago when he heard for the first time his kupuna, sorry, James, kupuna, his ancestors. It's time to go home, they said. And he listened and walked away from a successful corporate career in a multi-million-dollar company and moved back to Hawaii. Since then, his journey has been to understand his gifts on a deeper and deeper level, as he does the same for the people that come to work with him. James's clients come from all walks of life and many parts of the world, and his passion is in helping people live pain-free, passion-driven, and purpose-filled lives. All right. Welcome, James.
Wow, that sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. That's great.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. Thank you for being here. And hi, everybody. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, so just quickly, because James actually I had this idea of interviewing the healers of the world and wanting to be just talking about and exposing and sharing all of these wonderful tools that we have and traditional roots. I love traditional medicine and how we can incorporate that into our modern lives. And so you and I had this talk in Denver years ago about aloha, right? And the ha and the breath.
And the breath, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not to digress from today's conversation, but the breath is
It's okay. It's a really quick lesson in Hawaiian if you want it. Most people think of aloha in a certain way, about it as a greeting, as hello and goodbye. But the true meaning of aloha really is broken down into several different components. And so if we look at the word in the Hawaiian language is very phonetic. So it's if you can understand the syllables, and if you can pronounce the syllables independently, you can put the words together. Just like Kawainui, which is my name. So then you lay it together and it's Kawainui. Well, aloha is made up of several components, but two main components. One is alo, and then the other one is ha. And ha in Hawaii is very important because to us, the breath, which is the ha, is life itself. And that life, that breath is what everything is. And so when people greet in Hawaii, it's not a handshake. It's actually what we do is we touch forehead to nose and we share our breath. And so alo means to share, ha means breath. And so it's a deeper greeting than just saying hi and goodbye. It's actually what I'm saying when I say aloha to somebody, and I'm really meaning it. What I'm saying is, I share my breath with you. I share my life with you. So that's really what aloha means. So that's about as concise as I can make it.
Yeah, I love that. It really honors the other person and honors the meeting, and that it is a meaningful interaction, right?
Yeah, and it honors the connection that we have, and that makes not only us special or sacred, but that person that we're having that connection with as sacred as well. And I think, and I know we are digressing a little bit, but there's places in our lives, and I think that in our modern life, that we don't see ourselves as sacred, and we have a hard time seeing other people as sacred. And so if we're talking about being a world community, and we're talking about being together, then how can we understand that if we don't have this energy of aloha, this sharing and this connection? So anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I know that's a whole other topic, and hence why we're doing it. We're doing a double header for this. There's part 1 and part 2. Just extending the conversation, because I know we'll have so many great topics. But
yeah. But on today's topic, and we're talking about energy and about energy hygiene, I just want to give a little bit of backdrop or a story behind how I came into the work that I do. Okay.
Yes, please.
And I came to this work late in my life. I was in my mid-40s when I really started understanding what was going on. I was starting to hear my ancestors talk to me, and I was starting to understand that there was a deeper level to my life than I had been aware of up until that point. And as I started to open into this space, and this is over 20 years ago when I first moved back to Hawaii again, what's happened in my life, all these old masters, all these old Hawaiian healers and teachers that I had known about, I started becoming or being in their presence. And the more I did that, and this happened as well when I was in New Zealand, and I lived in New Zealand for a few years as well. But what I noticed more than anything else was that the state of their health, their physical health, and there were lots of things that were contributing to that. But what I was starting to watch was, and I call it the old paradigm of healing, because in my culture, what would happen is that when we worked on someone, we would literally take the energy out of that person, because that's really what healing was, right? But then my question was, well, what did he do with it? And what I was watching all these old Hawaiian teachers they were taking the energy, but they didn't know how to dissipate it. And I was looking at them, and they were, most of them were in their late 60s, early 70s. Very few of them were over 70 into their 80s. Okay. And I'm looking at that as somebody that's almost 50, and I'm going, my God, if this is what happens and this is where I'm going to go, I'm not going to have a very long career as a practitioner and a healer. And so I realized that I had to change that, and I had to figure out a different way. And I was literally watching their bodies deteriorate from the amount of energy that they had been taking on all their life because of the work that they were doing. And the other part of why these protocols, as I call them, or the energy hygiene, and it still doesn't sound sexy, but it's really important. It doesn't. I mean, let's just be honest.
I think hygiene is sexy. What's
well, high five. Thank you.
High five.
But the whole idea of that came also because the majority of the people that I work with are other healers and other practitioners. And so I was watching them burning out. I was watching them not being able to do the work that they do because they're emotionally, spiritually, physically, they weren't capable of doing the work anymore. So they were retiring or not working or going out and finding, excuse me, to everybody else, real jobs. because they couldn't do the healing work anymore. And I looked at that and I said, wait a minute, we have to come up with a different way. And I was grateful that I had amazing teachers when I lived in New Zealand that said, let's look at this a different way. Okay. Now and it's going to feel like I'm jumping around today, but I promise you that there's going to be an understanding and a focus to this. Okay. The first basic concept that I want to teach or want to share, I guess I would say, with everybody today is that every time I react to the world outside of me, to a person, to a situation, to a place, to something that's happening outside of me, every time I react, what I'm doing is I'm giving my energy to whatever that is. So if there's an angry person and you react to that angry person, you just fed them with your energy. It's a different concept than most people would think, right? And I heard you talk about this, about the idea about responding and not reacting, right? Because when I change my understanding and it's almost as if what I'm doing is I stop reacting to the world around me, and I start looking at the world and going, wow, I wonder what's happening over there. It changes because now what I'm doing is I'm gathering information about what's happening around me.
Right. You're gathering more information to like see the bigger picture
when that happens,
and not be so.
It's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
So this is one of the ways that I talk to people about this. So if I have 100% of my energy that's available, and I usually draw a circle with 100% on the inside, right? And I'm constantly reacting or giving my energy away. So for example, I'm thinking about the things that in the past that I can't change. So I'm thinking about that kid that knocked me over on the playground when I was 5 years old. I'm thinking about that remark that the person made to me at dinner last week, or something that a friend or a family member said to me, and I'm still thinking about that. I'm giving my energy to that, whatever that is. Okay. Right. If I'm constantly in anxiety and stress and I'm worried about the future, basically what you're doing is you're worried about things that haven't even happened yet. So you're giving your energy away to literally nothing. Okay.
I know. Just think about that for a second, right?
Yeah, exactly. Think about that for a second.
Okay. Tell us how to get out of that, James. Yeah.
I'm worried about not being able to
pay my bills. Yeah.
I'm worried about if my boyfriend or my girlfriend's going to call me or text me. I'm worried about what's going to happen in the world, right? So literally what I'm doing is I'm giving away my energy to something that doesn't even exist yet. So here I am. There's 20 or 30%, actually usually more, that I'm giving to my past, and I'm looking at trying to change things. And then there's this about 20 or 30% that I'm worried about the future. So if we just say 25% of each, that's 50%. That means half of the energy that I have to create in this moment, I just gave away.
Right. And a lot of our energy does come from this, like, the minute we open our eyes in the morning, I feel like there's like this, there's alertness. We're using energy. They say that you have the most willpower in the morning, right? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but
that's because our brain hasn't gotten filled up yet. And that's
totally. Right. It's like clear and yeah. Accessible. And again, we're jumping sideways, but that's why meditation is so important first thing in the morning, because I'm still open and I'm still connected, right? So let's go back to giving our energy away. So now I'm giving my energy away, and I have half of the available energy that I have in my world to be able to create the things and do the things that I want. And then the rest, I'm reacting to this person, I'm reacting to a situation, or I got angry at the guy that flipped me off in traffic, or the one that slammed on his brakes and I almost rear-ended him. And so the reality is that when I stop and I look at myself, I have very little of my energy left to be able to create the world that I want around me, to create the things that I want to manifest and bring into my life and have, and all those things, right? And so we have to start to be more aware of how we use our energy. And I know this may not sound like it's about hygiene, but it really is. So let me ask everybody a question. Ever walked into a room or had a bad feeling about somebody that you met, or
a text comes on your phone, right? So a text comes out on your phone and you look at it and you go, oh my God, there's Jim. He's texting me again. Oh. And I know every one of you have had that situation before, where you get that text or that phone call or that email, and you all of a sudden you feel your energy sink. In that moment, what you did is you just gave your energy to that, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for just a second. Your body and your knowingness is already reacting to whatever that is without you even sometimes being aware of it, even though you kind of just go, oh God, there's that guy again.
Yeah, and that's where the energetic realm comes in, because we have these perceptors, or it's like a radar or sonar. Like, I feel like it's this external buffer that receives information way before we do. So yeah, like you're saying, you receive that message and you sync, and it's happened before you even realize.
It happens before you even realize it, right? And so then as soon as that happens, then what's going on internally is that I'm having a physical, emotional, energetic reaction, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happens if I could recognize or understand that things are happening around me, but it didn't affect me personally?
I imagine there's got to be some background training before you're able to really not give your energy away to that. I guess that's what the point of the protocols are. It's like it's training, it's re-educating, it's reinstilling a pattern in yourself. The whole idea of neuroplasticity in science these days, that we can choose, a new path and retrain ourselves.
And that's exactly what we're doing as we're doing that, because we're starting to grow or have a different awareness. So this is one of the ways that I kind of say this to people. There's two analogies that I use that may be helpful, right? One is I'm a player and I'm acting in the movie or the play or whatever it is in front of me. So I'm a part of the scene that's happening in front of me. And the other is that I'm sitting in a theater watching the scene. When I take on the energy and it becomes part of me, I'm part of the play, I'm part of the movie, I'm part of the whatever's happening in front of me. When I'm watching or recognizing that energy is coming towards me and realizing that I don't have to do anything except understand what's going on, not feel what's going on. There's a fundamental difference between the two, right?
Yeah, being associated in or disassociating out.
Yeah, and maybe not so much disassociating, but just having a different level of awareness, right? Because if I'm looking at that and I'm understanding what's happening in front of me, oh, there's two angry people and they're arguing right now. Do I need to take on the energy of their anger and their argument? No. Does it help me to understand where they are? Yes. So now then I go, okay, so based on them having an argument or based on that energy that I'm feeling, what do I need to do? Instead of being completely sucked into whatever that is. And then I'm like, they're worried about the argument, and if it's going to happen, it's going to get turned violent, and should I do anything? And I know all of you have these kinds of things that go through your head. So you're totally invested energetically into whatever's happening. You gave your energy away and you made the connection, right? In the other way is go, well, those people are having an argument. Do I need to do anything about that? No, thank you. Can I hold them in love and put light around them so that they figure out what needs to happen without me having to interact or anything else like that? Yes. Does that make me separate? No. What it does is it gives me awareness on a different level. So what do you think about all that, Nicole?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm in total agreement. I'm just like thinking of, it's easy to see that's an easy example when you're looking at someone else, like two other, beings having their argument. But when you're in it, when you actually are in that movie and you need the information, you need to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture. But it can be difficult. It's like easier said than done, I guess, when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
And, because, I mean, in the training, you and I have done. We've done, some things together with the Growers, and I lost where I was going. Well, no. It's just like we're entangled, because of the relationships that we have with other people, right? Like we don't really get tangled up without others. So to untangle some of this stuff and open up and be able to step back,
just because the person I'm interacting in this moment is having an emotional reaction, we're going to just use anger because anger is easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Just because you're angry and you are projecting anger, or there's anger coming off of you, or your energy is of anger, right? Doesn't mean that I actually have to take it on. There's a choice, and most people don't realize that. I have a choice in every moment, and this is something that I tell everybody that I work with. You have a choice in every moment, in every interaction that you're in, whether you take on that energy or not. We don't even get to the point where we realize we have the choice. Some person is angry, and all of a sudden, I'm the receiver of that anger. Why? Did I need to do that just to keep the connection, or because I'm in a relationship with the person? No.
Right.
Can I acknowledge that you're angry? Yes. Do I necessarily need to do anything about it? No. Not in this moment. But then what happens, because I've created that break inside of that, it gives me the space to make decisions on what to do next.
Right.
There's a whole piece inside of this. There's a whole piece inside of this about neuroscience, because our brains are these amazing computers that and we've trained, and our brains are trained to react to everything that's happening around us, because that reaction is based on our survival. And this is what I tell people. Here's a trigger, here's my reaction. I learn what's happening, and I learn how to protect myself, or however you want to look at it, right? And that's what's happening every day. It's just no different than a computer. If you hit X on a computer, you get X on the screen. If you hit Shift X, you get capital X on there. If you hit Control X, everything disappears that you highlighted. The computer doesn't think about what's happening, it just does it. And our brains work the same way. So when we can start to create space between what I'm seeing or what's happening and how I respond to it, my life changes. And this is the beginning of the energy hygiene, because now I'm starting to realize, wait a minute, I don't have to give my energy or take any energy on unless I choose to.
Right. Yeah, and that's where the space in between the two, I think, is that awareness piece. Like that's the space where we can actually work with it, because we are just ingrained. We're just repeating the same, like we're just traveling down that same road that has been, it's a well-traveled path. But to forge a new path takes some effort, right? And I think in that space, that awareness of it is a really good step. Like, oh, there actually is another way here,
or multiple ways.
Yeah, there's so many ways, right? Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's the point of it. You can like stop and look around and have all your directions.
So I say to people, and I say this, awareness is the space between what's happening and how I respond. And the more space I have, the more choice I have. And the more choice I have, I realize I don't have to take on that energy. I can maintain, and you said it at the beginning, what we do is we learn how to maintain a field, or a resonant field of energy around us, where literally everything comes to that point and stops, and it doesn't come in, so I don't react to it. I don't have to experience whatever that emotion or that feeling is. Yet my awareness of it is there, because now I understand. So that person is angry and they're talking to me, and I can look at that and go, wow, you're angry. I totally get it. Do I need to take on your anger? No, not really. So I'm going to hold you in this place. For me, what actually happened when I started to realize that and started to practice this more and more in my life, and you're right, it takes practice, right? I started to actually have a different level of compassion for people, because I could understand where they were without having to experience where I am, or experience what they're feeling inside of me. It's a fundamental change.
Just watching their movie. you know?
It's a fundamental change in how we interact with people. But what we're doing every time we're doing that is we're sending this internal message inside of us that says, I see you and I understand you, and I'm going to stand here inside of myself, maintain my energy, and begin to understand what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, I mean, it introduces, I think, maybe the next protocol, you know, in a sense of like, what are we doing? You know, like you said, with your teachers, your mentors that you witness taking the energy and not really releasing it. So is that different than that would be like the paradigm of associating in? It's like, I'm going to take this from you so you don't feel it anymore. And in theory, I'm going to be the channel that gets rid of it, releases it, or helps it move out. But the problem is when it sticks to us. And that's, I think, what you're saying too, is like, you know, whether you're in the healing, you know, transformational industry or not, you're still experiencing people and taking on, that's the idea of the empath, right? Like that, I think is spoken of a lot. I mean, we all have that empathetic kind of ability. It's just like not building, but like strengthening that boundary that, you know, creates the option. It's the awareness, the boundary of awareness, maybe even, right? Like it's not like stay away, but it's like just cushiony bubble. I'm here for you. I'm not going to take it on for you.
Exactly. It's not about separation. And it's an interesting thing because when we're doing, so this is my paradigm of being a practitioner. When I'm working with someone, right, I'm taking them to a place where they get to understand what's happening for them, and then they get to choose what to do with it. I'm not taking it from them. So if you're a practitioner or you're a healer and somebody comes to you and says, I want you to help make me better, I want you to take this away. You know, I remember the first time that happened to me and I kind of went, whoa, wait a minute. If I'm taking this away from you, then where's the responsibility of you growing inside of yourself? Because you're going to understand how to do this for yourself. It goes away. You just gave me all the responsibility for fixing you. And I tell people, I don't fix anybody. We're not. And so there's this understanding of that, right? And so can I hold space? Because now we're talking about holding space. Can I hold space for wherever you are and whatever's going on for you so that you can come into a deep awareness inside of yourself and go, wait a minute, here's my anger. But I'm realizing that I'm not actually angry at you. I'm angry at myself, or I'm angry at something. And so then there's the opportunity of going, wow, knowing that, can you give yourself permission to let go of that? And then I'm not taking it on, but I am being a witness, and I'm also holding the space for that person to go through that. Those are boundaries that we create, right? I'm creating a boundary inside of that. I'm not creating separation. What I'm creating is a space where we get to take responsibility for our energy. You get to take responsibility for your energy and what you do with it.
And what might someone do with it?
Then think about it. If I'm angry, then how do I dissipate that anger? I have to look at the anger or be in a place where I can go, wait a minute, why am I really angry? What is that's inside of me? Can I give myself permission to let that go? What does it feel like when I let go of that anger? And so we go through those experiences because everything is an experience. Everything we feel energetically or anything else is an experience because my body is reacting constantly to all these things. So when I become aware of how my body is reacting, and I can look at that and go, wait a minute, wow, I was really angry in this moment. And I'm realizing that I'm angry at myself because I put myself in this situation. Can I be gentle with myself in this moment and realize that I don't have to do that? And so can I let go of this anger? Even me just saying it, notice how your energy changes?
Yeah.
Exactly.
More space, yeah.
Exactly. And all of a sudden I have more space inside of me. And what did I do? I became aware of my emotions. I became aware of my energy on a different level. And I felt empowered to make that change myself.
Right. Yeah, in emotional wisdom training, we have the same, kind of principle around like the awareness creates the room for accepting it. Because once you accept
Right.
it, then you're like, all right, there's space, there's release. Now you have room to awaken or move forward to another option, right? So there's, yeah. I love it. So the protocol, so protocols for energy hygiene really starts with, a principle
Awareness.
around like not having to take on.
Other people's
You
energy.
have a choice. You have a
Yeah.
choice. Yeah.
So one of the protocols would be, if you're going along in your day, right, and you are aware of your energy level and you're feeling good, and you're, wherever you are inside that moment, right, and then for whatever reason you feel your energy change, like you go into a store, or you're thinking about a person, or you drive, like for Ashana and I, when we're working, sometimes when we travel, right? I feel the energy change from neighborhood to neighborhood, sometimes street to street. I feel the energy change around us.
Right.
And because it's not that, well, I'm going to take a step back real quick. We're all empathic, okay? Everybody has empathic energy. Some people to different levels. In the last 3 or 5 or 7 years, I've watched the level of everybody's empathic nature just grow exponentially. So now we're literally feeling more now than we did even 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which is wonderful, because I think that heightens the potential for more compassion, to really actually honor, recognize, and take responsibility for ourselves, how we're managing what we're feeling and thinking and doing, and then to be able to see someone else in that space. I think it really elevates our ability to coexist. And not be so survival one for all, right? Like,
right.
That's maybe what we have been doing in the past.
Or be inundated by the energy as it washes over me, which is where most people are. And so,
Right.
so the way that they do it is I don't go into large crowds. I don't go out into a store. I don't like being around certain people. And that just kind of that's what creates separation.
So what might you in your work, someone comes to you with that problem, like, I can't be in big crowds, or I get really anxious, the world feels small around me. Say even with family, I know you do a lot of work with ancestral things, like our past traumas, or even just our DNA sequencing. I know this is like a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic for another time, because we're talking about generational trauma here.
Yeah. Because, and I know that could be more deeply seated, but so that's what we're dealing in the present moment. Like, is that something that would stop someone or be a block for someone that's unable to go into that big crowd, or really confront that cringy text, email?
We're talking about trauma now. So,
okay.
So I really is a different conversation. So
okay.
I want to keep that, and we can put that to the side, and we can actually make a note of that, and we can come back. But I want to go back to the concept of what I was talking about. You're going through your day, right? And everything's going along good. You're aware of your energy. And then all of a sudden you notice your energy change. You might feel sadness. You might feel anger. Or you might feel whatever it is. It's just whatever it is different than where you were feeling even a moment before, right? Most people not aware of the change as it happens. They just at some point they realize, wow, I started out my day really well, and all of a sudden I feel sad, or I'm angry, or I'm anxious. But there's not a place inside where we go, oh my God, is that my energy, or is that somebody else's that I just felt?
Right. Who does this belong to? Whose is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because even in recognizing it, what I'm doing in that moment is I'm literally interrupting. And I saw a comment about somebody saying that didn't realize that everybody was an empath. I didn't realize that everyone has some capacity of empath. Yes. Well, we're not talking about how to increase this today, Heather. That's something else. But we can come back to that, okay? But I want to stick with where we are. So I just recognized my energy change. I went inside and I looked, and for me, this is how I've come to understand this. If it's my energy, it feels like it's like this. If I ask, is this my energy? Is this somebody else's? If it's not my energy, what I've learned or how it feels to me is it kind of goes like this and it goes like that. Like it goes away just a little bit. Like it moves off of me. So I'm not feeling like this, but I feel the energy, but it's not me. It's like I can sense the difference.
Yeah. So that's how you check in.
Yeah,
with
that's how I check in. And I think everybody.
James, can we just really quickly just describe on a basic level what is an empath? What is that empathic quality?
I think sometimes people get confused with the difference between empathy and sympathy. Maybe this is a better place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the definition of the meaning of sympathy is I feel what you're going through. So somebody that's sympathetic is feeling what somebody or everybody else is feeling, right? If I'm in empathy, what I'm actually saying inside when I start to understand this is that I understand your energy. So think about that for a moment. I feel your energy, I feel your anger, or I understand your anger. Notice the change in the energy inside of you, because I'm feeling you right now because you're in front of me. So did you notice the change and the significant difference between the two?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So most people are talking about being empathic, but what they're doing is they're being sympathetic because what they're doing is feeling everybody else's energy.
Right. Interesting. Then when we talk about the sympathetic nervous system always being on overdrive and constantly stimulated, so much like receiving so much information, we don't give room for the parasympathetic rest and digest, like actions to unfold.
Again, a whole nother topic for another conversation. But really what's happened is that our environment and our society and everything that's around us is designed to keep us in a constant state of fight or flight, so that we are always in that sympathetic nervous system. So we're always reacting. Yeah. Again.
So when we're trying to be caring and with somebody, because I think in a way that's our trained response to supporting somebody, to be there and to agree and I feel you, but I think that there is that difference. I feel like taller and more expansive when you say, I understand you, where you're at, versus I feel you, I feel where you're at. Like there's a bit more space and separation, and I really like how you put that, James.
This is how I see. This might be controversial, and a lot of people may disagree with me, but I'm just going to say this, right? Most relationships that we have are built on pain. Is built on pain. Because when I'm talking to you and you're talking about the place that you are and the pain that you're in and the situation that you inside, unconsciously what my brain is doing is it's going back through my files to find similar instances in my life that correspond with what you're feeling in this moment, so that I can relate to you. So in essence, what I'm doing is I'm relating to you through the pain that you're in. When I come from a place of saying, I understand, what literally happens is it goes to this place and I go, I understand how you feel. And I'm not making it so that it feels like I'm better or higher or more important than somebody else. What it says is, I understand you, which means that I don't have to feel you. And from this place of understanding, then what happens is I actually see more of the landscape. I can maybe see past where you are. I might be able to see how you got to the place that you are. I can maybe start to understand, wow, you're in the position that you are based on how the interactions that you had, the childhood that you had first in some ways, right? So it gives me a different understanding. It brings me into a different level of compassion. But I want to go back to this. So I just recognize that what I'm feeling is not mine, right? In that moment, I have the decision, take that energy on or do something with it. Most people would say, well, let me just do this. Let me just dissipate the energy so that I'm not hurting anybody. But the reality is that if I take the energy that's being projected to me that I'm feeling from someone else, and I just take it and I dissipate it, I go, okay, let me send this to the light, which is what people talk about, right? Sending it to the light, okay? What you did was you just said, it's okay for you to barf all over me. So anytime you want to, just send your energy to me, right? So that person never learns that what they're doing is harming somebody else. Doesn't. Right? And so what I do is I turn it around and I go like this, and I go, I understand that this is where you are. I understand that this is your energy and this is how you're feeling. I'm not responsible for holding or carrying this energy for you. I'm going to give it back to you. But the only way that you can send energy back and give people back the energy or whatever it is that you feel that's coming to you from them is with love. That's it. It's the only way, because any other way, and this is really what I've taught, and I've seen this happen over and over again. If I feel you coming and I feel you and I go, oh my God, there you are again. I don't want to do this with you. Take this back. You feel the energy that I just put out there?
Right. Because you're you're reacting to their reaction.
Not only that,
just gonna continue that thing.
Exactly. What literally happens over time when we start to do that with somebody and it goes back and forth, it's a form of spiritual warfare. Most people don't think about it like that, but that's really what it is. And every time the energy switches back and forth, it multiplies by at least a factor of 10. And so if I'm in a long-range relationship or a long-term relationship and the relationship has been contentious, and every time I think about them, I have this reaction and I go, God, I hate you, or God, I don't want to do this with you. And you're sending the energy back. What you're doing is you're sending back the energy that you receive by a multiple of 10, and they feel it. And this is based on the experience of the work that I've done over the years. I've watched that turn from being just energetic to physical, where we actually make people ill,
right?
Because of the connection that we have. So when we start talking about energy protocols, right, and energy hygiene, it's that why would I consciously want to harm someone like that? And if that's what we're doing, where do we both get to learn how to manage this and how to take responsibility for where we are in our lives?
And that's the difference then with true empathy, having that understanding and coming at it from an elevated place of love, and a full expanded option, like potential. It raises them too, right? It gives the opportunity for, to get, because that's a stuck place that can just be stuck in the spin cycle. But, to receive someone who, responds differently to that gives you opportunity to grow as well. So now, James, our time is running out here. But for our listeners, to find you and hear more about energy protocols, I know you've written, you're collaborative on many, many books. And you can find The Ultimate Guide to Healing, Volume 4 on Amazon. And James has a chapter in there. And he's also got a website and offering a 30-minute complimentary mini healing session for anyone who's listening in and wants to take part of that. You can reach him at jameskawainui.com.
Yeah.
And that's Kawainui. Kawainui.
Perfect.
Yes.
If there's something that's happening in your life and there's a challenge or an issue that you're going through, reach out, because by being able to look at it and maybe having a different perspective, it may help you understand a different way of moving forward. And if not to me, somebody else that you trust, right? the point about that is sometimes we all need help. So getting the help or getting the shift in the perspective, and remember these pieces about becoming more aware of your energy, becoming aware of how you react or respond, becoming aware of not taking the energy on. And when I send it back with love. And so I say, I understand, and I hand it back to you with the prayer that you come into the space of being able to understand and move through love. Right?
Yeah, I love it. Just like cleaning the energy fields, in a new perspective. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom today. Aloha. Yeah. And we will join us next week as our conversation continues with James Kawainui, Native Hawaiian Healer.
Nicole, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Blessings. Take care, everybody. What will you take with you from today's conversation that will support you for the rest of your life?
Wow, what a show today, and the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. See you next week.